Well, Toronto FC are off to their worst start in MLS since 2012. Chris Armas's return to Red Bull Arena didn't go quite as planned, and Jefferson Soteldo's debut, it wasn't that magical debut that we were all hoping for. Welcome back to another edition of the Wake in the Red Weekly post-game show presented by our friends at Footy Talks. My name is Michael Singh, and glad to be joined here by my co-host today, Jeffrey P. Nesker, and special guest Tej. What's going on, boys?
Oh, it's a good start to the Saturday. Full of piss and vinegar this weekend.
Yeah. Club in crisis, right? Am I right, guys? Club in crisis.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if we're there yet, but we can get into that in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Let's dive right into things. Let's talk about the starting 11 Toronto FC throughout today. Obviously, in a 2-0 loss to the New York Red Bulls. So in goal, you had Alex Bono once again, Richie Larea, Omar Gonzalez, Chris Mavinga, Oro, Michael Bradley, Ralph Priso, Mark Delgado, Nick DeLeon, Jaden Nelson, Ayo Akinola. So, not too many changes from midweek that we saw in the CONCACAF Champions League. Once again, Chris Armas going with some continuity there. Jaden Nelson was obviously a new surprise. Ralph Priso, again, checking back into the midfield in the middle. And for me, and I talked about this on our pregame kind of, Twitter Spaces with Mike Newell. But for me, the biggest surprise was once again seeing Alex Bono in net. What did you gentlemen make of Alex Bono, and what did you make of the starting 11 as a whole?
Tash?
I guess we'll start with you, Tash.
Yeah, okay, start with the Alex Bono thing. I mean, even if Alex Bono is your number one goalie, even if he is absolutely the guy that you're gonna, go with number one, you've decided that. Like, there's some rotation, right? Like, there should be some rotation, like between year one and year two in a congested schedule. Like, it's not that we're 2 weeks away from our next match, and so I get it. There's another turnaround on Wednesday. They just played this Wednesday, and it just seems to be that he forgot Quentin Westberg exists. Like, because it didn't make sense. Like, even when Clint Irwin had the number one spot and Alex Bono started creeping in, you remember Greg Vanny always found a way to keep Clint Irwin like in the rotation. Like, you could see Bono was taking the spot. You could see that it was starting to shift. There was always this like, he's gonna get the midweek fixtures, as we call them, or the lesser games. But it's all Bono, so which is really surprising. And then you hate to think, Jeff, that like the injury bug has hit Quentin, and maybe his hands are tied. Like, maybe there's not something. I know we can't see them practice as much as we you would normally get to, Mike. Like, I know you're at the training ground all the time, but so it's a little. I'm looking for an answer there. That's dumbfounding for one goalie to be getting that many starts.
I'm glad you said that. I'm so glad that you said you're looking for an answer because, buddy, we got an answer here straight from Chris Armas. Jeff, why don't we pull that up?
All right, let's do it. Wow, we're going early.
Some post-game sound.
7 games in. You guys haven't kept a clean sheet yet. Quentin Westberg was this team's starter for the past 2 seasons. What does he have to do to sort of get a look here in goal?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's coming into this year, I knew that after speaking to some of the personnel here that things were tight in that position, and Quentin clearly was the starter last year, and then circumstance has it where Alex is given an opportunity, and where Quentin wasn't with us for the first part of the Champions League. First series, and then if we really talk through it quickly, we beat a Mexican team, we beat Leon. The chances, we weren't given probably much chance to do what we did, and we thought that Alex was a really big part of that. If you think about leg 2, he makes a big save at the very end. And then since then, there's some set pieces and things in there where even today, I don't think we give him much chance. So we're evaluating all the time, and we think he's done well, to be fair, because we have given up goals. So, and like our defenders and our strikers, he's part of that. So, listen, to answer your question, what does Quinton have to do? Quinton is a top goalkeeper, and he's a top professional and a top teammate. Like he's a pro. He shows up every day. He's playing well. This is a position on our team that is very competitive right now. So, what Quinton has to do is keep doing what he's doing. He's doing well, and we'll make the decisions. And it's a constant evaluation.
Are we done here?
We're done here. Yeah.
Can I be the first to call bullshit on that answer? Like,
that's the biggest no answer I've ever.
He's doing great in training. The guy we're starting is letting in, he's letting in absolutely every shot that comes through. But what he's got to keep doing is being better than the guy that absolutely sucks the bag right now. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to say a lot because I'm.
Before we get carried away there, what was Chris Armish trying to say there? I guess.
Please tell me.
Okay,
because it felt like an evasion.
Yeah.
For sure, he was clearly saying that Bono's earned his minutes so far, in his opinion, right? He's clearly said that he did well in the Champions League, and he's kind of taken this opportunity, and that the goals that have gone in haven't been Alex Bono's fault. So he's saying that Alex Bono has done his job. Do either of you disagree with that?
Vehemently.
You disagree with that? Alex Bono hasn't done his job.
Okay, one, I don't think I know what his job is anymore. So okay, and two, how can you? He's done his job. Have we had a clean sheet? Have we had a win? I mean, call me crazy, but that seems to be the two major factors that would sort of be against the concept of him doing his job. Again,
has there been an egregious error from Alex Bono?
Tej, I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, Mike, I don't know. I don't. I'm an Alex Bono fan. Let me get that right off the bat. Years ago, when he took the net from Clint Irwin, I thought that was the right thing. He was the younger thing. I don't get that same confident goal swag from him right now. I'd love to see Bono take it on a stat for stat basis, where we had a comparable of Westberg playing with this line and Westberg playing with so many kids in front of him. I think it'd be easier to judge apples to apples in that way. If Westberg comes in and he doesn't look like the second coming of Peter Schmeichel, I would say, yeah, okay, this is the team in front of them, and it's good. But I would just disagree with Armis there. Is just training is one thing. You can look dazzling in training, but maybe he should have gotten one of these MLS starts, or if you want to go with your top guy in Champions League and you clearly decide Alex Bono's number one, I can live with that. I
can live with that too. You roll with the hot hand. Yeah. Listen,
Yeah.
Before we get too ahead of ourselves, there's a comment here. Bono being blamed as a scapegoat, but that's not what I'm doing. What I'm doing is questioning when.
Jeff. Okay. Let me chime in here. He didn't take Champions League. The only reason why he started that, and at least from my impression, is that Quinton Westberg missed the start of training camp due to personal reasons. Right? It wasn't that all of a sudden Alex Bono came in and he won the job.
Okay.
And Armis said that, and he said that in the past. So that's 100% confirmed that Quinton Westberg missed the start of TFC training camp due to personal reasons. He was late to join the camp. So then you think back to that Club Leon match, and Alex Bono. Nobody has any question marks about Alex Bono coming back out and starting that second leg against Club Leon.
Looked great.
Looked great, right?
Well, I'm gonna have questions if 8 months from now, after every press conference, Chris Armis is like, "Hey, remember Leon? I know this was crap, but do you remember when we beat Leon?" Because it's starting to feel that way. It's like, "Hey, Chris, do you have any thoughts about the game? Leon, it was amazing, right, guys? Do you want to see a juggling act? It's getting to be enough already." But anyway, go ahead.
I hear that. I think, again, I would be shocked, absolutely shocked, if we don't see Quinton Westberg on Wednesday. I was shocked today that we didn't see Quinton Westberg with all of this being said, because he's been Toronto FC's number one keeper the last 2 seasons. When he has gone in the net, he hasn't lost his job whatsoever. In fact, he played so well the last season that Alex Bono came in and posted 3 straight clean sheets in his 3 appearances and still wasn't able
couldn't
to
get back on the team sheet. Yeah.
That's how good of a goalie Quinton Westberg has been for this side, and he absolutely deserves a look on this team. With that being said, I'm with you guys in the comments. Alex Bono is just being blamed as a sort of a scapegoat here. He is not the problem why this Toronto FC team is not winning. It's definitely not Alex Bono's
problem. Sure, but I have a problem when the coach is asked a direct question, and we haven't won a game yet. We haven't had a clean sheet yet, and he has the gall to say that Alex Bono is doing his job, right? Maybe in a myopic kind of like hardcore tactics sense. But that's evasion of a question, right? Like the logic does not hold. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you can't say that. You can say, well, he's doing his job. You know, he's staying on his line. Well, he isn't. Last game, right? Like it feels like an evasion. I'm not putting the blame squarely on Alex Bono's shoulders. I don't deal in absolutes, but I have a big issue with somebody telling me something that is the complete opposite of what my eyes are seeing, and then telling me that essentially I'm stupid for asking the question. And that's where I get into the,
I think you're leading. Yeah, I think you're reading a little bit too far into our.
No.
Literally answered my question.
Did he really?
My question was, what does Quinton Westberg have to do to get a look? And he said Quinton Westberg has to keep doing what he's doing. He will get his look. But Alex Bono sort of deserved this run of play. So before we get too carried away there.
You roll with the hot hands, but I mean, has his hands been hot for the last 2 games? We do have another goalkeeper, right? Like,
sure.
In the same. I mean, we all agree that we were shocked to not see him on the team sheet today, because he's maybe one of the 5 guys that are healthy on TFC. So why not give him a run out on the pitch? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Unless he's gone, like, you know what I mean? And they're just covering for his absence. It doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway.
Yeah, for sure. I think we're all on the same page there that Quinton Westberg does deserve a shot. Tej, do you have one more thing you want to chime in there before we move on?
No, it was just the hot, if he is a hot hand and take it. And again, as a Bono fan, there were some other, Michael, just tactically troublesome things in that Montreal game. Montreal or Vancouver game. It's it's not small, but how he got beat both times by playing so far. If this is the near post, he's almost guarding the field, lateral to the near post, right, and gave up such a wide angle on it. So that seems to me like a goalie who's a little fighting himself. We talk about it in hockey all the time, right? Guys who are battling their glove hand, they'll constantly take their glove hand out of the equation so that everything hits them in the chest because they don't want to be beat glove side. And then there were 2 or 3 goals between the Vancouver and the Montreal game where I saw that he had gone way over. It was coming down his left, and he completely went over to the near post to guard that. So any dive to the left would have been to save a ball that was clearly going out of bounds. And he gave up the entire right side. And where did he get beat on both times or all 3 times? On the right-hand side. So to me, it's, you almost got this like, hey, we got to go over your game tape. We got to go over your thing. You need to maybe take 1 game from the bench, which is a ready-made opportunity. So Armis is answer that, he is a hot hand. I would just, the Club Leon performance aside, like Jeff says, we can't, that can't be stretched thin till the end of time. I would just maybe ask them to take a little bit more look at just his technique right now too. I think there is a little bit cause of concern. Aside from, I'm not scapegoating him. I'd love to see Bono win this out if he is truly the number 1 goalie. But I think that there are some mistakes that he can fix, and that you have a ready-made opportunity for Westbrook to jump in. I think you're right, Michael. I would bet the farm on Wednesday as well too, right? Based off of what we're seeing now.
Yeah, I think we spent a bit too much time on.
Well, we have one more comment that I wonder what you think about, and it's, well, he may or may not be the issue. It is a known strategy in sports to make a change in the keeper to get a reaction for the team, which to me points to yet another reason why we should see Westberg in goal yesterday. Do you agree with that? Do you think it's too much of a generalization, or?
Yeah, it's a bit of a hockey mentality for me.
Okay.
Hockey thing. Okay. I was just about to say that. Yeah, I know hockey coaches love that. backup in, not because the starter was bad, but because you guys kept letting him down. And I just don't think that adage works in soccer, because backups in hockey are supposed to be playing like a certain amount of game. But it's fair comment, a decent comment. I would just disagree with that. A little bit of a hockey tropism there.
Yeah. Okay.
And
cheers,
again,
cheers.
Like we know why Chris Armas is sort of giving Alex Bono the run of play here. He's 26 years old or 27 years old. Quentin Westbrook's 35. It's clear that Alex Bono would be a better long-term solution for Toronto FC. So if he does get hot here, you run with Alex Bono, not only for now, but for the future, right? Like that.
Mike, that's a good point. I know sometimes we just look at statistics and leave the age out. And if Armas is thinking he's here for 3-4 years as a long run, it's, which one do you want to be married to for the next 4 years? Yeah, that's a good point.
Right. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's definitely something to keep an eye on. As Chris Armas said, the team's always evaluating that. Let's just hope they evaluate it better on Wednesday, right? Let's move on.
I'm gonna generally move on right here, and maybe it's a segue, maybe it's just me ranting, but like all I hear is considerations for the future. Like one bird in the hand, one in the bush or two in the bush. Is Bono going to be our guy? Is Westy going to be our guy? What about boots on the ground? I mean, we are making a mockery of ourselves right here. So I don't really need to hear about who's going to lead us into this storied future anymore. You know what I mean? Like this can't be the conversation, right? Like boots on the ground. Let's fix. There may not be a team in 3 years if we keep playing like this, right? So like, I just it's massively frustrating to hear this sort of distant kind of theoretical machinations, like enough. I don't want those answers anymore. I want, what are we doing now? Not what are we doing later? And again, this is turning into a rant, but I did want to sort of change the subject. So. Mike, where do you want to go next?
No worries. Okay, so one of the biggest problems for Toronto FC in this match, and quite frankly, throughout the season, has been careless turnovers.
Oh my God.
And, they've been punished a lot of the times because they have a lot of their players pressing up the field. So on that note, let's take a look at the first goal today, scored by Frankie Amaya, his first goal for New York Red Bulls, 20 years old. And
we love gifting golazos to kids that aren't on our team. But anyway, here it is.
So this actually cuts out the giveaway, but...
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I mean, blame it on New York Red Bulls.
Yeah, that's the Red Bulls' fault there, guys.
Yeah.
So clearly, the ball gets cut back to the top of the box. Frankie Amaya comes in, clean strike, bottom left corner. Not much of a chance, but you can give Bono there. But great strike by Frankie Amaya. But this cuts off what we really want to talk about here, and that was
We'll get better. I promise.
No, that's fine. That's fine. On the right wing. The ball is played to Marky Delgado, obviously in a little bit of a tough spot, but he takes a risk. He takes a risk trying to let the ball run across his body as opposed to getting himself in front of the defender. Caden Clark, who, we'll get to more on him later, but Caden Clark steps in, gets the ball, puts it in the middle, and then eventually the ball finds Frankie Amaya, and he makes no mistake. Again, that's a turnover by Toronto FC that leads directly to a goal. Narrative that we've seen far too often this season, and something Chris Armas talked about. Yeah, go ahead, Tej.
Yeah, Mike, when Jeff reached out to me and told me kind of the format of this show, I started going back to rewinding goals on my TV there to watch. And I was looking, I wanted to make a list of scapegoats, right? Who do we blame on each one? And as much as I love to blame anything on TFC players right now, but I almost thought that was just a perfect press from New York. You're right. Delgado could have taken one step towards and met that earlier, but I almost thought that the way Gonzalez played it to him, it almost called for him because you could see it was going across his body. The ideal thing would have been to pick it up. He does that. He gets one touch on it, makes the turn, which is absolutely the right play, squares up, looks up, and the Red Bulls player came in with blinding speed. A part of me was like, oh, okay, so that's how Chris Armas wants us to press, right? That's the fruition of the tactical style come to life. It was, you get me one split second of a pass that isn't received perfectly. Not a mistake necessarily, but just not less than perfect. And
less than perfect,
Less than
Boom,
perfect was
lights
all
out.
Delgado did there. Yeah. So that Not my takeaway from that was not so much that Delgado made a mistake or if there was someone to blame on that. Was hats off to New York, and we maybe can see what Chris is envisioning. I think a separate discussion is to be had is, does he have the personnel to play that way? The speed of Fabio and sorry, you'll have to mention that guy's name again.
Caden Clark.
Caden Clark.
Remember the name.
Thank you.
Remember
Yeah.
name.
Put some respect on that name. Oh my God.
I mean, yeah. Sorry, old age. So, I mean, they were just, their speed was just, just burning afterburners on every play. So hats off to them. That was just a well-earned goal in my regard. I don't know if you guys saw it differently.
No, for sure. Credit to the New York Red Bulls for that press. But that being said, I still think it was a clearless giveaway from Mark Delgado. And kind of further to that point, Delgado, like you said, Delgado was put in sort of a poor position there by Omar Gonzalez. Delgado was in a position to play right back. Now we can talk a little bit why he was in that position. And it's sort of the theme of today's match is that TFC had nothing going offensively. So Richie Larea, trying to create something offensively, he found himself actually on the other side of the field. He was completely on the other side of the play because he was trying to do a bit too much to get something going for his team because they had nothing going offensively today. And therefore you have Mark Delgado, who for me, he should not be playing on the right midfield. That to me is just that's a coaching mistake for me straight up because it's straight multiple times we've seen him played on the right side so far this season and he doesn't keep possession. He's a player we want to include in our side because we know how good he is. He's still 25 years old, and he's proven it in the past that he's an MLS.
He's 25 really forever. He's been 25 for 7 years. But
out of position there for me.
It's it's the anti-Delgado. Everything that we depend on him for, you put him on that right-hand side, and it's like the Bizarro version. It's almost
unfair to him, but he had a howler of a game today.
A howler.
He was not good today. He gave away the ball far too many times, and he looked lost out there at times, straight up. So I think that's something they'll have to look for moving forward. But let's move on again because we can spend days talking about that goal.
Jaden Nelson, what did we think about his performance today? Because I saw Shaft 2.0. I mean, it was wonderful when he tried to take guys on one-on-one. His crosses were the worst thing I've ever seen in my life, maybe next to Shaft. And
how many crosses did you count from Jaden Nelson today?
More than 0, less than any good. I mean, I was doing the game thread, so
yeah, he might have.
I just saw the same. I just saw the same hesitation. There things that I noticed. And again, you can tell me if I'm from outer space. But the second phase of attack, we were all ball watching. I mean, every time we got the ball back for any kind of second phase penetration, nobody was making any runs. So even if the cross was pinpoint, nobody was there. What was the other thing? And then Nelson, I thought, we keep hearing about how he shreds guys and puts them on skates. I didn't see it. I mean, the pace seemed to stop dead with him, which is the opposite of what we've been heard, right? Like suddenly he was patient on the ball when he should have just been bombing down that flank. Like if he can undress guys, why is he stopping dead and not just bombing down the flank? And that I noticed a whole bunch of times.
It's for me, it's picking and choosing those moments for Nelson. It's something he definitely has to work on. But there were 2 or 3 times during that match where Nelson beat his defender 1v1, touched it inside. And the player he touched it inside to was either Michael Bradley, Nick DeLeon, maybe even Mark Delgado. Those are guys who struggle to pick a final pass. And if you're beating a guy, you're touching it inside to Alejandro Pozuelo, I think that's a different end result completely.
Knock on wood, buddy.
Maybe Soteldo, maybe Nelson doesn't, receive the ball back in some of those cases. It seemed to me like every single time TFC picked up the ball in the final third, they were playing the very first pass that they saw forward. And it was way too simple. And Alejandro Pozuelo changes that dynamic like that. He changes it so quickly, right? So I think it's tough when you don't have a number 10, even Osorio. If you throw Osorio as a number 10 there in the midfield, to sort of be that outlet to find that final pass.
That pressure valve, absolutely.
Your final third becomes that much better. So with Jaden Nelson, I saw him taking guys on. I saw him beating guys. I saw him at times, trying to do a bit too much. But I think a lot of that was as a result because of the pieces around him. He didn't really have the right pieces to sort of work off. So personally, I liked what I saw from Jaden Nelson. I liked that he was aggressive. I liked that he was taking guys on because we know he's capable of doing that. It's just, I think he needs some help there, to be honest.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a fair. Catch myself agreeing with both of you guys because it's like, you want to.
That's because we're basically agreeing with each other, just
yeah,
in a roundabout way. Yeah.
It's an incomplete grade, right? I mean, you in the vacuum of not playing with Pozuelo, not playing with any striker who's fit, and then sure maybe kids look a step off, but maybe they're not being exactly put in a position to succeed either, right? With the guys.
I think that's a very good shout, and that came up a lot on the Bird app while the game was in play. That there were the kids are being asked to do too much. There's too many of them out there at any given time,
and that's
they're not.
That's it, Jeff. Sorry. Like I'm not a
no. Please,
I'm not the big proponent of like #play the kids. Like I want to see the best 11. If there's Canadians on that best 11, that's fantastic. I also don't believe Toronto FC's job is to develop players for the Canadian men's national team.
Nope.
There's other avenues for that. I want to see the best 11. I want to win every single trophy there is, and then I want to go to Qatar and win the FIFA World Cup, right? Like that's my ideal thing.
Yes.
I'm not here to develop.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
not here to see a developmental pathway through Toronto FC. So having said that, I if the kids are going to play, I'd like them to be outplaying Mark Delgado, outplaying, like Luke Singh is someone who may have just start sneaking himself into the conversation as this season goes on. Of maybe he just outplays Omar Gonzalez on certain weeks in training and in game, gets his spot. So for me, I'd like the kids to be like a little touch and a dash here. 30 minutes in a Canadian championship, one of them gets a start on a midweek game, but we've seen
certainly not 5 at a time being asked to do
and that's
everything.
The thing.
Yeah,
and I think that isn't that's unfair to them as well. As much as we want to give them, some fans want to give them development time and want to see the kids. I think they would be the first one to say as well. Well, not like this. Like in a position to succeed, have them surround them with Pozuelo, with Josie Altidore, with the rest of your DPs. With Soteldo in there, and then see what they look like, right?
What?
5 of them together.
What choice? So TFC had 2 kids really in their lineup, unless you want to consider Iowakano as a kid. They had Jaden Nelson, they had Ralph Priso today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I mean overall in the last 3 weeks, and I'm agreeing with you.
That's a different conversation because that's injuries. Yeah. They were missing 10 players before that. They were forced to play a lot of their kids.
And that's the same issue. And that's the same issue as it is today, right? And in a perfect world, Soteldo is already taking one of those spots. Ralph Priso's spot is gone to Jonathan Osorio. And these guys some of them are back in TFC too, and some of them are on the bench, right? So we'll see. Incomplete grade for me, Michael, and Jeff, to answer your original question. It's not fair to grade them at all based off any body work there. They're being thrown in with the Sharks, and it's unfair to ask anything more than just to survive at this point.
It could stunt their development. It could put bad juju on them stepping out on a pitch. I mean, let's not mince words here, right?
For sure. So, and we think back to like Jaden Nelson's debut with Toronto FC. He was thrown into that game against New York City FC in the MLS's back tournament for their knockout, their round of 16 game. And like we said there, that just wasn't the time to sort of play Jaden Nelson.
Absolutely.
Was today a fair time to play Jaden Nelson? I mean, I don't think it was unfair. Like, I think he didn't. Again, I don't think he did. He's a
soccer player. I mean, eventually he has to play soccer, right? So, all signs point to yes. There's nobody else that can fill his spot.
That's the thing too. Like you had Tsubasa Endo on the bench, unless you want to go out there start Tsubasa Endo as opposed to Jaden Nelson, which is something I can't say I agree with at all. Then they're kind of handicapped here until they get some of their body back, right? Let's move on because we spent a lot of time in the first half. So let's get the second half going. Let's bring up that
a
second New York
goal?
Red Bulls goal. Yeah.
Yeah, here we go.
There it
Man,
is.
they really started that late, but whatever.
Yeah, what's up, New York Red Bulls? Get your videos
Yeah,
better.
seriously.
So essentially what happened there, the ball's played through the middle on Omar Gonzalez's left shoulder in between Chris Mavinga's right. And it clearly finds the New York Red Bulls attacker. Alex Bono comes out, doesn't get enough on the ball. It's kind of squeaks past, and once again, his third goal in 4 matches so far this MLS season. That's 17-year-old Caden Clark. And he is something special, let alone on the goal, because obviously he had the intuition to follow that up, but that's probably one of the easiest goals he'll ever score.
I mean, Alex
He's
Bono
just a
was his
baller.
strike partner in that setup. He was running his face to goal. Yeah.
Beating a dead horse from the previous. I mean, is Bono at fault at that? Is there anything better that he could have done? I mean, I don't know.
Tough play. No, like, 'cause there was room in behind, so he does have to leave his line. And we've talked about him being too far back or too off his line in the past, where he got chipped literally last game. This time, maybe he's a little bit too far behind, but regardless, great ball in behind. I think Chris Mavinga has to do a little bit better on that initial pass to sort of close off that gap so that doesn't get through. And then I think on the replay, it showed a little bit of a better angle of Alex Bono did get a piece of the ball. It seemed to like deflect back off the striker. If anything, I'd like him to be a little bit stronger, kind of come away and clean that whole play up. But, sometimes there's some bad bounces that happen, and unfortunately it bounced just past Bono and into the back of the net. But I think that problem has to be sniffed out before it even reaches Bono, in my opinion.
It's a good shout. It's just, based on that Red Bull video, they really painted him with big clown shoes, right? Like the only thing we saw of Alex Bono on that Red Bull replay was him, as an Ursas strike partner running back to his own goal. Yeah.
And then Caden Clark, he has a deal already. I think it is to go to RB Salzburg or RB Leipzig.
Leipzig,
And we'll see him move over there in Europe, and I think at the end of the season, I think it is, or next season. But
the earlier the better.
Ivan say, really.
I don't want to play him anymore.
We gotta enjoy Clark before he leaves for that club.
Yeah, am I enjoying this? I don't detect any enjoyment. So
he's sweet. Like my girlfriend, who doesn't even really watch soccer, she turned on this match in the background. She's like, text me immediately. She's like, Caden Clark is sick. And she's someone who doesn't even like watch soccer. So, this is a kid who's 17 years old. He's standing out.
Birthday present ideas: get her the Red Bulls jersey with the
heck no. We saw our own young gun come on today though as well in the second half. We saw Jaquil Marshall-Rudy, unfortunately, as you guys maybe alluded to a little bit earlier, come into a really unfortunate situation here at Toronto FC in the second half, where it seemed like they were a bit lifeless especially after giving up that second goal. But even in that first goal, like, what
sucked the wind right out of
there?
the press. There was no press after that first goal. I mean, it was bits and pieces, but
who he came for Oro, right?
One of the two,
one of the two.
Somewhere around there, I wasn't even. I was talking with Kristen on Twitter, Kristen Knowles. That oral subbing was a little bit odd. I mean, unless they had already predetermined that he was only fit to go for 60-65, which doesn't seem like it. I thought he played decent enough to kind of stay in there, and maybe Mark Delgado had less than a stellar match, but maybe it's just positional. But I'm not really sure what Armis is doing like for like, if he's moving around, because there was a lot of changes even when Soteldo came on. He took over the spot that De Leon had. De Leon dropped back, and everyone kind of shifted around. So wasn't really sure if he needed to make a like change, in which case I would have kept Oro on. I wasn't really I didn't see anything from Oro that suggested he should have been off at that point.
I think Oro was a casualty to sort of the formation changing, because right before that, the team brought on Justin Morrow for Ralph Priso. So they brought on a natural left back, and you already have Richie Larrea at right back. And what you wanted to do is you wanted to bring on another attacker. So you're right, Jaquil Marshall-Rudy did come on for Oro Jr. there. Again, he wasn't having the worst game. Was he a casualty? I think he was. I think he was just a casualty of the formation changing. So I don't know. Again, you can question whether or not that was the right move because there were other candidates definitely to be subbed off. But I think since he is a fullback, that's just the way it goes sometimes, unfortunately. And I think he's going to find himself in that position quite a bit moving forward because, you're going to have the injection of Kamar Lawrence into this lineup as well, which makes playing time, even tougher for someone like Aro to find.
Yeah, I said this on Twitter yesterday. I think the best starting 11 includes Lawrence, Oro, and Larea, and it's just you got to find a way to play Larea a little bit more forward.
Absolutely.
And if you want to play what we just saw New York do today, Mike, with that blinding speed on both sides of the wing. If you want to do that, then Larea is your prime candidate to at least fill one of those pressing roles, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now we see if Chris Armas has the wherewithal, to start moving some chess pieces around as players start getting healthy, coming back in whenever that magical date may be, and then we go from there. So I'm not necessarily convinced that it's a Larea or Oro decision on that right side there. I think that maybe we can play both of them. So we'll see.
Yeah. Major. Do you have something out there, Jeff?
Well, let's stop playing Justin Morrow as a midfielder. I mean, this is. I'm going to say it, 2018, shades of Michael Bradley playing center back. Like, I know we're injured and I know, you know what I mean? But, we are not at a place where we can start playing players out of their natural positions if we don't have to. It feels awfully scorched earth. I know we're injured. I know we're missing all our DPs. I know we're bringing a knife to a gunfight. But, do we have to also play players out of position on a regular basis? This feels like tinkering. This feels like what the criticisms that people were leveling against Henry at Montreal last season, right? Like, did he ever start the same lineup twice? He was perpetually tinkering. And at a certain point, you have to go, this doesn't wash anymore. This isn't figuring out tactical news. He doesn't know what team he has, right? And I would hate to be there 2 months into the MLS campaign. Our magic get out of jail free card, unfortunately, is half the comments we're seeing. We won't know until, the moon is in its proper phase and Pozuelo is 100% and Osorio is this and that and this and that. And this has to drop before that has to drop. And the knee bone is connected to the hip bone and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. No, Mike, let me ask you guys a question then. In your perfect scenario, the perfect manager, he makes one of two decisions. Either he doesn't play players out of position and plays, keeps putting people into the system, into the system that he designed, or he says, okay, I have a plethora of these types of players. I got a plethora of wing backs right now. Maybe I play a 5-3-2. Maybe I play a 5-3-4-1. What would you want from Chris Armas? Or are you giving him a pass that he is absolutely married to this pressing system, despite not having the personnel to properly run it, putting Justin Morrow, square pegs into round holes?
I was just about to say square peg, round hole, yeah.
Or would you prefer that he says, okay, listen, until the cavalry arrives healthy, I'm going to switch up my system a little bit, just try to drag these games out to a 0-0 draw and hopefully get one goal out of it and try to take a point each time until I can hold still. Because right now what he's doing is not working. And so what would you prefer him to do?
Well, here's what I will say about that, about the Justin Morrow point. Like he came into the match, he was in midfield to start the match, but 10 minutes later he shifted to left back. So I think I don't mind a coach at all who's willing to try new things. And maybe something he's seen in training that has worked. So there is that. I also don't mind a coach who's willing to adjust on the fly. Armas has shown that, he can adjust in some certain circumstances. But the biggest problem today for me was just that TFC had no structure. They had absolutely no structure.
It was Timbit soccer. Yeah.
And I think the biggest point, I tweeted this out, is the fact that they had no number 10. There's only 2 players on this team right now who can play as a number 10. And that's the unfortunate truth. It's sad, to be honest. It's Jonathan Osorio and Alejandro Pozuelo. So what I would like to see, Tej, to sort of answer your question, is for the coach to adjust his system to the fact that you don't have a number 10.
Yeah,
I would like to see the coach change his formation and play a different kind of system when you don't have the personnel to play it.
100%, because at a certain point, we stop asking questions and we start making the deduction that he doesn't know how to do anything else, right? I mean, that's a fair shout, right? We're not there yet, but eventually, if you keep trying to blunt force, something that's not working with personnel that aren't doing it, then do you have anything else in your toolbox, right? Like, you know what I mean? So, and I don't want to come to that eventuality where we have to ask those questions. And I think that influences some of the frustration today. I cannot believe we've gone 40 minutes and not discussed the debut of Jefferson.
Before we do that, I just don't like you said, I don't think we're at that point yet.
We're not there yet.
Where, Armas, he's made quite a few adjustments on the field. He's tried a bunch of different things. It's just more so you have to get that structure right, and that's so important. Here is my caveat, though. As you well know, I am at the point where I'm ready to shoot the TFC medical staff directly into the sun, but that we'll save that for something else. We're at 40 minutes, and we haven't discussed the debut of Jefferson Soteldo. And I think that is a representation of his debut. You know what I mean? He was anonymous out there. And I saw a tweet on Twitter where someone's like, "We're embarrassing us in front of Jefferson Soteldo."
Transfer request. That's the first English he'll ever know is transfer request.
No, think about
his first and only English statement will be transfer request.
Jefferson Soteldo's driving down the left wing and he's trying to link up with Patrick Mullins and Justin Morrow. And then you have Mark Delgado coming in, trying to support. Like, what is this guy thinking right now? When he's thankfully they have training sessions. I'm sure they've seen what's going on there, but damn, man,
and they triple marked him. They had 3 guys on him at all times
because they knew he was the only threat TFC had going forward.
It was like the 85th, 87th minute, somewhere down there. Jefferson got down the left-hand side, and I think that he had 2 players directly on him and 1 player kind of just stand guard right behind the other 2 defenders in case he burst through. And I mean, he was doing a samba dance with the ball. It was 1 tap, 2 taps, circle, spin. And over to the bottom of the corner is Mark Delgado standing there with his hands on his hips, just refusing to make a cut into the space that he had created.
I saw that a lot.
And he was just
drove me mental.
I think Delgado was waiting for a pass out, and I'm looking at Delgado going, dude, how much more dancing can I do with this ball before you just take this space I created for you here? That's as Mike just nailed it a couple of minutes ago. There's no true number 10, so there's no everybody else on that field is playing like Pozuelo is still there. Like their ghost. Like I don't have to occupy that space because this is normally where Pozuelo would run through. And it's like
that's a good shout, man.
That's a little bit on you guys. Do something else here. He's not walking through that door any minute right now. So yeah, incomplete grade again for Jefferson Stellato because poor guy is playing with 4 kids and Mark Delgado
and some chewing gum and some pre-cooked chewing gum. Yeah, no, I agree with you. But again, we're into the season, so we can lament with our gallows humor about Jefferson playing with a couple pylons and a bag of chips, but when do we start getting properly indignant about this? Wow, did that ever come out difficultly out of my mouth? Angry. I'll say angry instead of trying to use a 25-cent word. But I mean, just where is everybody? Where's Osorio? Where is Osorio? Where's Josie? Where is everybody?
There's 2 people that are really missing, and that we that is kind of cause for concern. That's Osorio and Pozuelo, and then Josie Alter, obviously the vaccine shot, whatever illness he's
whatever
to go. some sort of illness, and that's what the team keeps telling us. So we'll just go off that because you don't really fake that stuff unless something serious.
You're an
is
asshole,
up, so.
But yeah. Okay.
So, and he's also listed on the official injury report as out with an illness. So in terms of Josie Altidore, like we can give him a pass. That we hope he gets better, and I hope all is well there. Now Pozuelo, this is where the issue is for TFC fans, is the lack of transparency.
Zero transparency.
I don't think it's an issue of him. If they told us at the beginning of this, when he picked up his knock, if Alejandro Pozuelo is going to be out 4 to 6 weeks.
Plan for it. Yeah, we'd be all fun. Yeah.
Right? It's the fact that every time we've asked about Alejandro Pozuelo, we're like, oh, he's getting close. Oh, he's getting close. Yeah, he's almost
actually sorry. He's
And then obviously today on the broadcast, they're like, TFC Pozuelo is going to be out 7 to 14 more days.
Yeah, and they just sort of casually threw that in there, like in the middle of the run of play, just like, by the way,
which is sort of something we kind of got from speaking to Chris Armas on Thursday, was that Pozuelo wasn't quite there yet. But again, we don't know what there actually is, and me and Jeff, we've talked about this. I don't think we give Pozuelo, we don't rush Pozuelo back. I don't think anyone here wants to see Pozuelo step on the field and re-injure his thigh for some whatever time longer. So I think, again, it comes back to the lack of transparency, and that's why TFC fans are so frustrated. They tell us 4 to 6 weeks. We plan for 6 weeks. Okay, we'll see you in 2 more weeks. Tej, you obviously know this better than most people.
Yeah, Tej, I mean, exactly.
Tej, sometimes that's just not how injuries work. Injuries are sometimes tricky, and, especially muscle injuries. So in your opinion, Tej, what's the problem here with the Pozuelo situation?
Mike, we're going all off tweets and conjecture, and from I wouldn't even be able to get. I literally would be just shooting a dart here.
That's what I'm saying.
Because I'll give you this medical input. The thigh is complex. Are we talking about the quadricep or are we talking about the hamstrings? Then the quadriceps are 4 different muscles. The hamstrings are 3 different muscle glands. Then you have Jonathan Osorio. He said it was a thigh injury, but now we learned more. It was an iliotibial band syndrome, right? So IT band injuries typically occur with runners, and it's just an inflammation, and they can strike up like that's like plantar fasciitis. Like you wake up one minute you're fantastic, and then the next day you wake up and you haven't even run that day, and then all of a sudden your IT band flares up. So at least with Osorio, I read that initially that he was not going to be in the lineup, and I was just kind of like, what the heck, I think we echoed. We were there.
Yeah, we were there.
Yeah, we were all in all caps, and we were like, what is this injury? When they were being a little bit more clear that it's an IT band syndrome, I was just like, all right, I honestly, you can come down the stairs sometimes the wrong way and have an IT band syndrome. I remember there's a golfer who was just walking from the tee box to the green and flared up his IT band syndrome, withdrew from a tournament. So that's fine. The problem with
how do you get that healthy?
It sounds to me like you can't.
Is there a way to get that healthy to treat that injury?
Yeah. An IT band syndrome. So I'll try to keep it. It's essentially like a really long ligament tissue, and not so you're not really relying on muscular healing or tendon healing. It's just a
tarot cards.
Sorry,
tarot cards.
No, not tarot cards. Okay. What does it mean when my tarot card says I'm injuring my IT band syndrome? Is that bad? No, not tarot cards. A lot of ice, a lot of anti-inflammatories. They should be pumping him full of Advil. And it might be that he could have probably played tomorrow, or could probably play this evening. Like sometimes those IT band syndromes are just kind of like they'll die down just as quick as they pop back up. So for him, it's not going to be something that you'd expect to linger either. Like I would walk with Osorio's injury going, this was just an acute thing, and it's not going to be something that he's going to be bothered for the rest of the year with. They'll ice it, they'll massage it down, they'll get the inflammation on there. Michael, the problem with that injury is it's not a lot of vascularity, and so you just got to try to find ways to get blood flow into that tissue. So a lot of deep tissue massages and that kind of stuff. So nothing that we're concerned with, this is going to be a compensatory injury with something else down the road. Like when Oso comes back, Oso's back. I'm pretty confident in that. So when you ask me about Pozuelo, We're all.
We don't know.
I'm shooting.
We don't know. We don't know.
And I think for them to be, is it club policy? Is this Pat Quinn with upper body injury and the guy's missing an arm? It should be like the guy's got a broken arm and the thing. You'd be like, oh, he's out with an upper body injury. Like, come on, dude. Like, we can clearly see his arm is hanging off here. So I think they need to be a little bit more
transparent.
They need to be a little bit more transparent and let us know: is it a quad? Is it a hamstring? Is it a muscular injury? Is it a tendon, injury? Is it down to the patella? Whatever it may be. Because then we're smart enough fans that we could say, like you said, Michael, tell us at the beginning, and we won't keep bringing this up every single game when the lineup gets announced. We'll take our lumps. Like we knew last year, whenever it was that Michael Bradley's ankle injury was going to be exactly this time frame, and we all talked about it. We had a window, and he actually beat his window, right? Because it's Michael freaking Bradley. So it was good. Giovinco's had a previous injury, and we knew, okay, it was going to be exactly 21 days, and we knew how life without Giovinco is going to be. But it's this. He's on the sidelines, and then they'll say he's participating in training. Like it was just a random comment during the middle of the game. Oh, he's in training. He's not fully into training. 7 to 14 more days, and I think that's where fan frustration gets in.
It feels like evasion. It feels like bog standard evasionary tactics. I mean, let's call a spade a spade.
I think at the beginning of the season that actually was the case, because TFC were actually not even saying anything because they were facing Club Lyon and nobody had tape on them. They were keeping everything close to the vest. Now, I don't know what the injury was for Pozuelo. Was it a tricky injury that was actually, maybe it takes him longer to recover than they initially anticipated? I'm sure I'm not a doctor. Again, Tej would have better, answer for this. But was that an injury that, they might think he's back in 3 weeks, but it actually, he's not quite there yet at the 3-week mark. Maybe it takes 5 weeks. Maybe that's the case because, like I said, I think we're all in agreement here that we don't want to rush Alejandro Pozuelo back for him to, re-aggravate this injury. We want it for it to be behind him, right?
Yeah, Mike, I hate you for making good points and kind of calming me and Jeff off the ledge because we're ready to.
No, I live on the ledge, man. Knife edge. Yeah, that's where I live.
Walk, so. Yeah, I think you'll always be permanently on the ledge. He's walking me back off of it because I want to yell. But Mike, if I can make a point here to yours, you're absolutely right. I know you're a basketball fan as well. And this injury gets into. I'll use an example of why these. If it is, again, I'm guessing here, but if it is a hamstring injury, one of the most famous examples of a mismanaged hamstring injury was quadrunted by the San Antonio Spurs, where what happened was they kept getting MRIs on him and X-rays and ultrasounds and showing, you look great, like you should be playing. And he was telling them, no, I'm hurting, and I'm not hurting in a stationary position. I'm hurting when I go to run. So whatever your MRI is showing is not picking up what's actually to the extent of the injury. And he ended up having something called calcific tendinosis, where the muscle never showed up to be injured on the MRI, but it was always, as he was running, it constantly started tearing like a bone chip off. And there was just no way to, until it finally blew up, and then, he got managed better here in Toronto. So if it's Pozuelo telling them, then I'm fine with that. If they go, you look good, your MRIs look good, and Pozuelo going, yeah, but when I'm doing the drills, I'm feeling bad.
I'm hurting. Yeah.
I'm all for it. Yeah, because the Spurs damn near, almost tanked a year and a half of Kawhi Leonard's career off of that, which is surprising because they're I'm sure Michael knows, that he agrees that they're probably one of the best run organizations in the NBA. They're like, the New England Patriots. They're well run. So if Pozuelo telling the club, I just don't feel good, that could be it. But again, this is all me just speculating and conjecture.
But I love your speculation because it's a new wrinkle. I also feel it's important to state explicitly if it's between me knowing what's actually going on with a player and gamesmanship to make sure that we have an edge on an opponent, I choose the latter 100% of the time. I don't need to know over and above a potential competitive advantage. I just think that's very important.
This is beyond gamesmanship because he's told us that Pozuelo.
Yeah. Yeah. But just if all things being equal, I will always fall on the side of a potential competitive advantage. I don't need to know that badly at the expense of the team winning games. But I think we're past that point here.
But the team's not winning.
Exactly. Exactly. There is no advantage. There is no advantage to being mum on the issue at this point, other than pissing us off and evading what is potentially an even worse situation. Right? It's just simple logic. It's deductive reasoning, right?
To be fair, I think from maybe a week ago onwards, they have been kind of as transparent as they wanted to be. Chris Armas, has told us that Pozuelo is kind of returning to training, but he's not fully in the training session yet. They didn't give us an exact timeline, so if that's like what we're missing, sure. Like I hear everybody on that, because I wholeheartedly agree. I would like a timeline for Pozuelo, at least a timeline that they're working on.
Mm-hmm.
But like we said, these injuries are super tricky. We don't know what's happening. We don't know if it's Pozuelo that's being like, hey, like, yeah, I'm not quite there yet. Like,
and I don't expect them to disclose that either. Yeah, I don't. Yeah. I would be surprised if the club disclosed that. We don't deserve to know. And
one more point on that is that Toronto FC aren't the only one dealing with a situation like that. LAFC right now is dealing with a similar situation with Carlos Vela. Carlos Vela picked up what looked like a knock or an injury, kind of. I think it was maybe a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. It was in a match.
When Bob Bradley took him off, and then
when Bob Bradley took him off, and Vela actually wanted to go back on and play, and it became this whole media stunt that Bob Bradley was taking Carlos Vela off. Bob Bradley actually had to come out and sort of almost apologize for that. So that that kind of hit headlines, and then turns around next 2 weeks, Carlos Vela isn't even training with LAFC.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So. You never know with injuries like this. There's so many different factors, and we're not privy to all of those factors, especially
these are training. Wonderful shouts, Mike. You're 100% right.
I will. Sorry, go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead.
But he's also 100% wrong.
Yeah. I will say this though. I will say this: if it is one of those day-to-day kind of negs, like he's going out there and he's running, and this is the Kawhi Leonard situation. Then it also doesn't behoove them to come out on TV and say 7 to 14 days, whoever's leaking that information to the broadcasters, because it could be 7 to 14 days.
Totally irresponsible.
Then you're better off just saying it's day to day, and just
100%.
Saying, we're going to see it, because it very well could be with these injuries, and we've all heard that magical thing in basketball circles in Raptor land about load management. Load management isn't this like mathematical formula where you put this equation on the board, you go, these are the dates he has to select. No one was taking his VO2 max. Nobody was checking his muscular fatigue balances and taking his blood out and checking his protein levels to see what his muscle waste was. It was simply a matter of going to Kawhi on a 2-week basis and going, what game would you like to rest here? And he kind of let him pick, and it was because he listened to his body. So all that is to say is, if this is one of those situations, when you just let Alejandro Pozuelo say, let us know when you're not hurting anymore, and until then we'll just say you're day to day. Because in 7 to 14 days, if he goes out and feels great for 6 days, and on the 8th day he feels bad and they're not, I think there's going to be a lot more anger. It won't just be Jeff like ranting off on the ledge. I think there'll be a lot. I think there'll be a lot more other fans.
Join me.
Yes. We have room on the dark side.
That kind of contradicts. That kind of contradicts what we were saying, though, Tej. Like, it's like we have been getting that sort of day-to-day mentality from Toronto FC leading up to that 7 to 14 day timeline we got in today's broadcast, and that's what led to sort of the frustration, right? So maybe there is a reason why TFC haven't given us that timeline, as you're pointing to. Maybe that's the reason why we're not getting that clear, definite timeline.
But I think they would be best served to say this is what it is, and that's why it's day to day. Because right now we only assumed it was day to day because Michael, to kind of peel back that contradiction is if they told us that it was that kind of injury, then we can all accept these are day to day injuries. But they're still leading it with generalized thigh, and that could be a bruise, which we would then be like, no, well, step up, like you should be ready to go. And there's a difference between playing hurt and playing injured, and nobody wants to see him play through an injury. but it's getting earlier and earlier. And an 0-3 start means, more questions are going to be asked is, dude, can you play through this? If they don't start giving us some answers here.
For sure.
Absolutely.
All right, gentlemen.
Absolutely.
We have spent the last 25 minutes talking about an injury that we don't know anything about.
It's amazing.
I wouldn't have had it any other way, gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
Before we sort of wrap up here, we're 0-3. Worst start since 2012. Are you guys hitting the alarm bells yet? I'll start with you.
I pulled my best Martin Bailey impression here today, and
that was pretty savage. Yeah, that was pretty savage tweet.
I thought he was. I thought he would be too busy on Hockey Night in Canada today, so I didn't have Martin's access to the speech, but turned out there was a nice little article written by the Minneapolis Star Tribune, because the Loons are also 0-3. So it was outside of last year with the expanded playoff format. Only 4 clubs have ever come back from an 0-3 start to make MLS Cup playoffs. So, and I think the number for 0-4 was only 2 clubs. So Wednesday's game all of a sudden becomes a must win, right? It's like I said, it's getting earlier and earlier. So yeah, alarm. I'm getting ready to at least have my hand hovering above the alarm bell, Mike.
What about you, Jeff?
You don't have to ask me.
Jeff's just been hitting it. Just been pulling fire alarms left, right, and center. It might not even be Toronto FC.
I'm just so frustrated. I agree with all of your points. I agree, measured. It's a jungle out there, and public relations are important, and the court of public opinion is important. But I'm just seeing so much chaos on the field, behind the scenes, and I try to apply a logical lens to it. And it just keeps, I'm so confused. I'm so confused. I'm unbelievably frustrated by the injury situation, and I don't, it's just been listen, Arsenal's doing terrible and TFC's doing terrible. So my soccer situation is not so great right now. Am I overreacting? I mean, overreacting is my middle name. So eventually we'll get somewhere where, I just want to be happy again. I just want to be happy again, Mike.
So yeah, I hear you. And Tej, you make a good point there with that stat. I don't know how much weight I put into that, because when I look at, when I look around the league on paper, I still do believe this is one of the best teams in the league. That being said, I do still remember 2018 and what happened.
Oh God!
But kind of building off that point, though, is if you look around the league at the other teams who have been competing in Champions League, I think their records coming into this one were something like 2 wins, 4 losses, 7 ties, or maybe 4 ties, 7 losses, something like that. Sure. So this isn't just a kind of unique to Toronto FC. This is happening to other Champions League clubs. That being said, TFC are probably, after today, are probably in the worst position versus those 4 clubs, aside from maybe Philadelphia, because I think Philadelphia has also had a really bad start to their season.
If we're chasing Cincinnati to the drain, no one here should be happy.
Yeah. But hey, guys, long season. We still have another 30 something games to go through, something like that. So
they can't all be crap. Yeah,
there's plenty of soccer still to play. There's plenty of time to get this ship right. There's plenty of time for us to inject Alejandro Pozuelo back into this lineup, get some bodies back into the mix, and see what this Toronto FC's actual strongest starting 11 looks like. Before I wrap up here, do you guys have any last final thoughts to add?
If 8 months from now, Chris Armas opens a presser with, "Hey, remember that game in Lyon?" I have permission to light something on fire. All right, let's just put it that way. All right.
Oh man, that's hilarious. Tej, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think the man to watch and the answer to watch now is Alejandro Pozuelo. If everything revolves around getting a number 10 and everything hinges around that, then the next 14 days have to go on perfectly for Toronto FC to make this work. I'm going to look at the quick schedule here. That means if it goes all the way to 14 days, he'd be missing a game against Columbus, NYCFC, and Orlando. So, 3 teams that are Columbus, I know is having a bad start, but 3 teams theoretically that would be ahead of you in the standings, or ones that you would be fighting for for playoff positioning. So, I I think what needs to happen is a complete judgment on this team is upheld until the best 11 get in, Mike. And then I'd love to be a guest back with you guys. And
No,
absolutely, Ted.
No, you're not allowed.
Oh my
rather the debate being, injury, and we're arguing why is Oro not getting any minutes in this 11? Why is Larea not in there? I'd like for this debate to be like we have way too many good players in Chris.
Yeah, we're too good. I mean, we just can't get all that goodness out there. Yeah.
Let's have this, injuries be like a 30-second discussion, and we're just talking about our bigger discussion is how does Chris get all these minutes? And until then, it sucks, but the grade gets upheld. But again, if they go 0-6 in the next 3 games because there's no Pozuelo, does it even matter what the best 11 looks like in June or July?
Yeah.
And on that note, TFC are going to be faced with a very tricky schedule coming up. I think they have Columbus on Wednesday, New York City FC on Saturday,
Bayern Munich on Sunday.
Yeah, Bayern on Sunday. Imagine. And then before the end of this month, before May closes out, they face Columbus once again, the defending MLS Cup champions. But the good news there is, Columbus can't use Liam Fraser against us. So I think we got some hope, gentlemen.
Yeah.
On that note, guys.
Mike,
go ahead.
Thank you. Well, I was just going to say, at least you and I have May 26th to look forward to, though, right?
Hey.
Hey.
Glory. So
thank you. God, I'm sharing a space with 2 Man United. Oh, it just dawned on me. Anyway, let's end this right now before you guys start talking about European football, because I don't even know what that is anymore. Cheers.
Thank you everybody in the chat for joining us.
Me, guys.
Yeah, we really appreciate everybody in the chat, everybody's insight. You guys were awesome today. It was really lively, especially after a disappointing 2-0 loss to the New York Red Bulls. Toronto FC, as we mentioned a couple times on the show, they have 2 losses, 1 draw, and through 3 games, they have 1 point. So not quite good enough yet. There is still hope because we haven't seen the strongest starting 11 yet from Toronto FC. Jefferson Celtaldo is still getting his feet wet with the club. And, maybe we'll get a designated player in the starting 11 moving forward. That would actually be pretty nice. So,
all right. Cheers, again, boys.
Yeah, let's wrap up there. Cheers. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Please like, rate, and subscribe on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you have any suggestions on how we can improve this show moving forward, please feel free to chime in because this is very much a work in progress. But until Wednesday, we'll see you.
Cheers.